How you doing today?
We're doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent as well. Pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate you giving us some time.
You're welcome.
We've got Graham Nash on the phone. He is a two-time Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, renowned songwriter, and I did not know that you were so into the world of photography, but apparently you have some works, maybe some photos you took, or some sort of equipment in the Smithsonian?
Yeah, I do. Here's what happened, basically. I've been a photographer longer than I've been a musician. In my book, Eye to Eye, of my photographs, the first portrait in there is of my mother that I took when I was 11.
Oh, wow.
So I've been a photographer a long, long time.
Okay.
So one day, my friend Joni Mitchell had a show of her paintings at a gallery in Japan and had been treated very well. So she said, why don't you share your images with them? And I said, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm a musician. She said, go on, share them. Who knows? So I sent the gallery of half a dozen shots, and they came back and they wanted to do a show.
Okay.
And the only stipulation that made it a little difficult is that they wanted them 4 feet square.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I don't know whether you know anything about photography, but that's a huge image to be done in any darkroom, and I did not have a darkroom that big.
Right.
Whenever I... Oh.
What are
Fire,
you?
a fire alarm just went off.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it just went off. I think we might be okay.
Okay,
anyway,
good. All right.
Sorry about that, listeners. It's just a quick fire alarm.
Yeah. Don't let don't set yourself on fire or anything for us.
That's
If
right,
you have to
yeah.
go.
Really. So at the time I was faced with this problem about having to make large prints, a friend of mine, Charlie Wurenberg from San Francisco, suggested that I check out the Iris printer. The Iris printer was from back east. It was a huge printer, and I saw it, and it was making photographic quality prints, but almost instantly. I mean, the drum on the machine would spin for 20 minutes, and when it stopped, the print was there, and it was dry, and it was beautiful. And so I bought one of the machines. It was $124,000.
Wow.
And I changed it immediately, avoided the warranty in the first 10 minutes. didn't care. Printed my show for Japan, and it was wonderful.
Right, great.
Anyway, I started the business of Nash Editions, which is a digital atelier and the first one in the world. And because I was the first one in the world that was making this service available, my first printer is in the Smithsonian, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. I really didn't know that. What sparked your interest in photography at the age of 10?
My father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my father was an amateur photographer, and we were a very poor family, but we had a cheap camera, and one of his main joys after, slogging away at work all week was to take his kids to the zoo and take pictures. And that's when I first became enamored with the magic of photography.
What did your father do for a living?
He was an engineer.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you've achieved an awful lot in your career. Is there anything in particular? What do you think you're most proud of when you look back?
Hold on 1 second, folks. Leave the building, but now nice.
It sounds like they're very great instructions they're giving you.
No kidding. Anyway, so yes, where were we?
I was asking, is there one accomplishment that you're the most proud of?
I would,
Do you think they don't want you to answer the question? That's what I'm wondering.
He doesn't want me to answer this question. I think my children.
Okay.
Yes. I think of everything I've created in my life. I think that my music may live on after I'm dead, and hopefully my children will live on after I'm dead.
Right. Sure. How many children do you have?
3.
Oh, wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me, being a father myself. Yeah, that does make sense. Do you know roughly how many songs you've written in your life?
I don't know, a couple of hundred maybe.
Yeah, it seems like an awful lot, right? Do you have one that is really your favorite?
That I wrote?
Yes.
I think when you look at it and you look at, popular music and what might exist in the future, I think both Teach Your Children and Our House will still be representing me after I'm gone.
Right, yeah. 2 great songs, 2 long-lasting songs. A lot of people, I think, forget that you're British. You're so sort of tied in with the Laurel Canyon sort of sound and everything.
Indeed.
And
yes.
yeah, you are an American citizen, though. What really prompted you to get citizenship here in America?
I didn't feel that it was nice of me to criticize this country and to praise this country unless I was a part of it. I wanted to vote. I wanted to be a part of this community. I think America is one of the greatest countries in the world. And we do have problems, of course, many of them. But there are many, many wonderful things that happen in this country every single day that don't get noticed. I've been an American citizen for over 30 years.
When you were starting out with the Hollies, you guys had a lot of sort of, I don't really know the best way for me to describe it, just sort of a pop sound,
Sure.
a lot of teenage love songs maybe, and then, of course, you grew into a very socially conscious writer. What prompted that change, and was it a difficult transition? Did it happen quickly?
It was a slow transition. In 1965, I think Alan and Tony, my bandmates from the Hollies, wrote a song called Too Many People, which was about the population explosion and the Earth not being able to support, a couple of billion more people. So that was basically the first kind of social kind of song that I wrote. And then when I came to America to hang out with David and Stephen and Neil and Joni, watching them write and realizing that, the pop songs that you referred to earlier were important, but not important.
Right. Certainly.
Give me 1 second. Man, these messages are getting shorter.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. I don't think I've ever heard that happen.
Really.
When you look at this younger generation of songwriters now, is it? Do you think that they're not doing protest songs and the sort of songs that you guys were doing then, or is it just an apathetic public that's not paying attention to the ones that are being made?
Well, I think both of those things apply. There is an apathetic public out there that don't care about what happens to other people. Not only are people a little apathetic, but the people that control the world's media, you could probably count on two hands.
Right.
They don't want protest songs on their airwaves. They don't want them on the radio, on their television programs. They just want sheep. They just want you to lie down, let me sell you another pair of sneakers and another cola, and lie down while we rob you.
Right.
And that's what's going on in this world. It's bread and circuses all over again.
Right. So it's it's a little bit of both then. That makes sense to me too.
The truth is that if you go to, say, for instance, Neil Young's webpage, Living with War, you'll see a couple of thousand protest songs on there.
Right.
But you won't hear them on the main airwaves anymore. They learned when Walter Cronkite was telling you how many Americans died in the Vietnam War when you're trying to eat your dinner at night. You never heard anything about Grenada.
Right.
You never heard anything about Panama. They wouldn't even let you photograph the flag-draped coffins of the soldiers who died in Iraq, for God's sake.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that all does make sense. As a songwriter, whose songwriting do you enjoy?
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan, yeah. That's, I think almost universally that's the answer to that question.
Yeah, well, he's the best. I mean, there are many great songwriters in this country. James Taylor and Paul Simon. I mean, there are many, many great songwriters. Jackson, lots of good songwriters. Yeah.
Right. Who are you listening to at the moment? Are there any sort of new artists that you're listening to, or any new music?
I'm actually right now kind of fascinated with two things. One is a man called Jason Mraz, who is a friend of mine from California, a really fine songwriter and a guy that wants to kick ass. And also, I was listening to a record that I produced many years ago by my friend Terry Reid.
Okay.
And it was an album called Seed of Memory. And I produced a lot of albums in my life, as you know.
Right.
This is the best thing I ever produced.
Wow. I'm not, I don't think I'm familiar with that, but I'll have to check that out.
It will kick you on your backside.
All right,
it's a great album. Yes.
I like that a lot. You, speaking of albums, you've got a new one coming out April 15th, This Path Tonight. What inspired this album?
Okay, this is a long story. Are you ready?
I am prepared. As long as the fire marshal there at the hotel's okay with it.
Exactly. Yeah, well, if I burst into flame while we're talking, forgive me.
Okay.
I've been married to the same woman for 38 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my romance with her came to an end. And for the last year, we've been in the process of divorcing. Everything's good. It's just a painful process sometimes. And after I decided that that's what I wanted to do with my life, I met a woman in New York, and I love her dearly. She took the actual the photograph for the cover of This Path Tonight. How it happened is, because I was going through all these incredible emotional personal changes, on my bus in October of last year, which I share with Shane Fontaine, who is the second guitar player in the Crosby, Stills and Nash band, we wrote 20 songs in a month. And we took Christmas off and went into the studio in January and recorded those 20 songs in 8 days. It was the fastest album I've ever made in my life.
Yeah, that's a pretty quick turnaround. When it comes to writing songs, do you ever just want to stop?
No.
You have no desire to just sort of stop and relax a little bit instead of being on the road? And
no.
Okay.
I don't relax. I'm not a relaxing guy.
Not at all, huh? So, okay, good. Do you, where do the songs, like, where do you sort of find inspiration? Does it just come to you in your daily life?
I'm a human being.
Right. So
I wake up in the morning, I look out the window, and I go, wow, that's great. Wow, there's so much going on in the world that I have to voice my opinion about things. And that's one of the great things that I found when I came to live in America, is that you can speak your mind.
Right.
And no one has to agree with you.
Sure.
No one has to listen, but you get the chance to speak your mind, and that's incredibly important.
When it comes to that, have you ever had a period then where there wasn't, maybe you just nothing was coming to you, you weren't grabbing that inspiration, and did that concern you?
I've never had writer's block.
Okay.
And it's because of this. I do many other things in my life than music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a collector, I'm a sculptor, I make linoleum cuts, I paint. I've got much more going on in my life than just music,
Right, so you don't have to, you're not sitting around trying to force it. You have things to keep you busy until it comes to you.
I'm not sure you can force it.
Yeah.
When the music of music visits you, you can only be awfully respectful, and you can't do that. I can't push it too far. I know when the moment is there, and I know when to take advantage of it.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense. You sort of seem to have a natural feel for it, which is good, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you? You've done albums, solo records. You've done them with Crosby, Nash. There's been Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. How do you determine who plays on these albums? Or when you write songs, do you say, okay, this is something for me and David to do, or this is one I'm going to keep for myself, or is it just? Yeah. I mean, it seems almost sometimes like just whoever shows up.
Yeah, there are certain songs that are obviously screamed for 3-part harmony, and there are certain songs that are obviously a solo thing. I don't know. We're all writing all the time, and songs come up, and then Neil will go, "Oh, I know what to play in the chorus of that one," or Stephen will go, "Yeah, but the verse got to have this groove behind it," and I don't know what the process is really.
Right.
It's always been that somebody has come to my house with a tape of songs and saying, "Hey, Willie, you want to hear this, man?" And all of a sudden you're off and running.
Right. If you could go back and give the younger version of Graham Nash some advice, what would that advice be?
I think my advice would be to follow your heart.
Okay.
Because that's what my mother and father taught me. They said I'm a decent person. If I follow my heart and check out how you feel really about things, you won't go far wrong. And it's good advice.
I think it's good advice for everybody. The album is This Path Tonight. It will be out April 15th. Looking forward to it. And Graham Nash, I thank you for taking some time to talk to us. I want you to get out of that hotel before something awful happens.
Yeah, it's been weird. But thank you for talking to me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time.
Bye-bye.